A woman could literally come into my life, completely ruin it, and I'd say thank you. I actually don't want that to happen. I don't claim that energy. Please, knock on wood. Don't let that happen. This video is mainly going to consist of stories like that about me having really fucked up friendships before. But luckily, it did get better. So for this episode of Beautifully Nuanced, I'd like to mainly talk about female friendships and my experience with them, what I've noticed from other people's friendships, and I'd like to dive deeper into them. Hopefully, this will allow you a new perspective. Perhaps it will allow you to improve your current friendships with other women, and also be able to notice certain red flags in other people and also in yourself, because it's good to take accountability and learn from your mistakes and become a better person, because obviously nobody's perfect. At the very least, just taking those steps to try and improve yourself, and that's all you can do, really. Okay, so I'll be giving a little bit of a backstory to my previous friendships. I'm not just a bitch. I'm a bitch with a backstory. I'd say that throughout my elementary and early high school life, it consisted of numerous instances wherein I would get betrayed by female friends that I did have. And it usually consisted of them talking shit about me behind my back, or just me finding out that they didn't necessarily like me or appreciated me as a friend, or like they found me annoying. And obviously a lot of those times I would be left really fucking hurt by those. Like, who wouldn't be? In those instances wherein I was like friends with these women, they would act so nice. It's not like they were avoiding me or they would stop hanging out with me. They would still continue to hang out with me. They would still continue to spend time with me, and everything would be fun, everything would be great. Usually in those instances, like, that would be much more painful than if they just like didn't like me from the get-go and just showed that to me up front. Yes, I do believe that you should like treat everybody with like a basic level of decency and politeness, even if you don't like them, even if you absolutely hate their guts. Just like a level of civility whenever you're in public and stuff. You don't have to necessarily like be really fake and be really like cheery around them when you don't really like them as a person. Like, I would be a part of their circle. I would genuinely enjoy their company. I genuinely enjoyed having these people as my friends. And then I would later find out that they were talking shit about me behind my back. They secretly don't like me. There's like some sort of secret animosity between us that I didn't feel initially. And like ever since then, I feel like I did carry a lot of that trauma whenever I make friendships or connections afterwards. I'd say like ever since then, I sort of like became very selective with who I would like approach to become my friend, or like who I would open up to. And very rarely would I like try to initiate or make the first move in terms of friendship. Even if I would be very selective with the information that I would give out to them. Like, this just always became like a lingering thought at the back of my mind. Like, oh, will this person betray me down the line if I tell them this now? So that really like affected how I perceived other people in friendships, specifically other women. Like, yes, men are shitty ass people. Actually, yeah, the sentence ends there. Men are just shitty ass people. The pain that I would feel from like the betrayal of these like female friendships that I had, it was uncomparable. I don't think any heartbreak could match the level of pain that I felt from those. I would be very careful with like certain people who shared this similar like traits to the others, because I'd see them as some sort of pattern or some sort of hint as to how they are as a person. I became very cautious of like small reactions or small things that people say. And I would always overthink like, oh, is this some sort of backhanded compliment? Or is this like, or is there a second meaning to what they're saying? Is the way that they made eye contact with their other friend, like, is that like a jab at me? I would constantly be overthinking these like instances, to where I notice whenever there's like a social situation, I would try to just like stay in the side sidelines, not say too much, not draw attention to myself, because I saw drawing attention to myself as some sort of like way to put a target on my back. So I just like dimmed my light in those situations, which honestly is like really sad saying out loud now. But luckily, I would say that I'm fairly healed from that friendship trauma. Obviously, like talking about it now, for some reason it like sort of reemerged the like emotions that I felt from that time. But like I definitely learned a lot from those situations, and I have better quality friendships now. I choose to value like a small number of friendships, and I like choose to invest in them a lot. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of friend groups. Like I do have like multiple friend groups, but I prefer to hang out with people one-on-one or like in smaller groups, because I feel like I'm able to like prioritize the connections I have with each individual person that way. Something that I learned from losing my previous friendships was it did help redirect me to the right people. That is something that always happens. When I was outcasted from my previous friend group, I eventually found the people that were right for me soon after, and I ended up spending more time with them, and they ended up becoming people that I was more matched with. I was able to talk about things that I genuinely enjoyed. I was able to have like more interesting conversations with them. Well, with this like the previous friend group that I had, I noticed that like I wasn't really happy hanging out with them. I was just like there because I just like wanted the company. But I realized like from the new friendships that I emerged from the other like new friend group that I had, they were people that I genuinely cared for, and they were people that genuinely cared for me, and I was very glad to have met them. A common thing that people ask me is, how do I build quality, lasting friendships? Here is ways that you can build some sort of friendship with someone. It's just like finding some sort of hobby, finding some sort of community or way to like meet other people. I meet a lot of people since I do debate. I meet a lot of people in debate. I meet a lot of people from MUN, student orgs, from like the various schools that I've transferred to, because I've transferred to a lot of schools. Just like putting yourself out there. I know that's like really cheesy, but like putting yourself out there, trying your best in like small instances to like make conversation with other people. There are going to be times when you try to make small talk with someone and the conversation is just not flowing. You guys have nothing in common. That's okay. That's a part of the process. That just means that, okay, you guys aren't a match. But there are going to be times when the conversation with someone just like flows really easily and you have great chemistry with them. And in those instances, that's when you're able to have some sort of foundation for your friendship. Something that I did was I created like a list of qualities that I look for in a friend. You don't have to write it down necessarily. Just like have some sort of idea of like what kind of qualities you want in a friend. Some people, they want people who are really fun, are really outgoing, and they party a lot. That's fine. Okay. In those situations, like you go to spaces that consist of those kinds of people. Usually you would be able to meet them at like club or a bar or like in like social events and parties. That's where you would be able to find those kinds of people. Other people prefer to have friendships that are very deep and intellectual, where you're able to have like smart conversations. In those situations, you go to circles with those kinds of people. I did debate and MUN. In those communities, in tournaments and in conferences, you're able to find people who match those descriptions. Having this like sort of idea of what kind of friendships you want, it will give you an idea of where to look for exactly. Because if you just have this broad idea like, oh, I just want a friend, or like I just want anyone, I just want to be friends with anyone at this point. If you're coming from a point of like desperation where like I'll be friends with anyone, that's when you'll attract the wrong people into your life. People who could take advantage of you because you don't know where to stand your ground, or you don't know what exactly you are looking for. Honestly, a part of being able to find good quality friendships is also having a very strong sense of self, knowing who exactly you are as a person and finding people who match that or have the same values as you. That is what creates a stronger bond. Because something that I really appreciate from my other friends is that like they're very diverse in terms of interests, in terms of hobbies, in terms of like personalities. I have a very diverse circle of friends. What keeps us united, or what keeps our connection, even though we are very different people, people is the fact that we share similar values, principles. Doesn't necessarily mean you should be in an echo chamber of your own personality. I think that's like kind of fucked up if you are only friends with people who will always agree with you or always agree with your opinion. Being with people who you align with morally is very important. It doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, you're an extrovert, you have to be friends with other extroverts, or like you're an introvert, you have to be friends with other introverts. I think there could be like a lot of variations in terms of like personalities, but character, that is something that you can't let go of. You will not get quality friendships if the qualities that you are looking for are very superficial. If you are looking for friends in a certain tax bracket or of a certain like beauty standard, if you have some sort of ulterior motive with the friendships, those are not going to last very long. What I mean by having high standards in your friendships, it means that you have high standards in terms of their character and their actions and how they treat other people. Let's say, for example, a quality that I admire in my friendships is if they are generous. Because I myself, I would say I'm a fairly generous person. My love language is like gift giving. Does that mean I will only be friends with somebody if they get me a bunch of expensive gifts? Or like I would be more inclined to be friends with somebody if they were to get me more expensive gifts? No. It just means that from what I notice from how they act, how they speak, it has to be very generous. The way that they treat the other people in their life, the way that they treat me, in their own way, they have to show generosity. That's what I mean by like having high standards in your friendships. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be 6 foot, in finance, blue eyes, and shit, but okay, so the next thing I kind of want to talk about is about girls, and pick-me's. If you read the title of this video, you might think that, oh, this is another video about how women are catty, and some people are gonna call me a pick-me for, like, the way that I titled this video. Just know that it's fucking clickbait. You reached this far into the video, like, you should probably get that by now. I don't hate women. I don't hate my friendships with other women. A good portion of the friends that I do have are women. But you can't deny the fact that the patriarchy, male validation, being male-centered, those are all things that heavily affect how women treat other women. The betrayal that I felt in the past, the reason behind some of them was because of a man. Maybe not necessarily in like they had a crush on the guy kind of way, but there was definitely like, I wanted validation from this guy. So the way that they acted in those situations, that's, I guess, what led them to doing what they did. I had a whole video before about girls, and pick-me's. It was for Women's History Month last year. I dive more into depth in that video. I watched this video recently about how this girl is not a girl's girl. I watched the video. I agreed with every single point that she made. And I guess at some point, like, there was a time where I was sort of irritated by the term girl's girl. And I thought like, oh, is this internalized misogyny? That's why I'm irritated by the term itself? Or is this something else? I sort of felt the need to conform and call myself a girl's girl, or else me calling myself a feminist, or me saying that I'm for women, that would be out of character for me if I didn't call myself a girl's girl. Like, the girl's girl movement, it did allow for women to have a sense of camaraderie and come together and be more likely to stand up for each other. It became a way for like women to collectivize. I do think that in a way, in social media especially, it became a way for women to sort of police and micromanage the small actions that we do. Of course, like in short form media, in like brand marketing, the way that you are able to market it well is by making it very simple and easy and digestible. So, in effect, what would happen is there would be the kind of content that's like, if you don't do this, you're not a girl's girl, or you have to do this if you are a girl's girl. It would usually consist of very small, menial acts that, in essence, helping other women. But when I would usually watch that kind of content, it just felt like this is how you stay small, agreeable, and non-threatening to other women. It would consist of like, oh, if it's your friend's day, don't dress up too much, don't try to outshine them, don't try to upstage them, don't gatekeep makeup products or clothing. It would also be like, don't act this way in front of your friend's boyfriend, or don't do this around him, or if you do this to your friend's boyfriend, like, that's fucking weird and you're not a girl's girl. A lot of the times, there would be certain actions, certain characteristics that would fall into one of those two categories. It's either you're a girl's girl or you're a pick-me girl. In order for you to be respected by other women, you had to always conform to the qualities that they considered as girl's girl. And in the video that I watched, that's exactly what she highlighted. Prior to the girls' girl movement, women were constantly obligated to stay agreeable, stay palatable, stay small. There were like a list of characteristics that women should follow, or else they aren't a good woman. But then, the girls' girl movement came about. Initially, yes, it was good that we were moving away from women seeing each other as competition, people valuing friendships with other women. But obviously, once more people start being a part of the movement, certain things are going to be misconstrued. Certain things are going to become more simple or black and white so that it's more understandable to the vast majority of people. And that's when it started becoming warped, wherein it went back to women having to stay agreeable, stay palatable, and stay small. And if you don't follow these characteristics or follow these actions, it then became, you are against the movement, you are not a real feminist, you are not for women, and therefore we will outcast you. Something that really, like, annoyed me and pissed me off was the idea that women should not gatekeep and should constantly share where their makeup or their clothes are from. That was something that didn't make sense to me, and I realized the reason why it felt weird to me. It sort of became a way for women to become these walking influencers to promote and push products and push consumerism. And I was like, okay, fine. Okay, now I know why it bothered me so much. Like, I don't see why that is helpful to the movement itself. This could also tie back to beauty standards and how, like, women are supposed to conform to them. Now, women are obligated to help other women to conform to those beauty standards. Well, if somebody asks me, like, okay, where did you get, like, your clothes from? Where did you get your makeup from? Like, I will tell them. When another woman compliments you on, like, your clothes, for example, now the immediate reaction is to tell you where they got it from. And it made me realize, like, you are now walking promotion for the brand that you are wearing. Maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe it's not that deep, but yeah. Since I talked about girls, now I'm gonna talk about pick-me's. Pick-me's was a term to describe women with internalized misogyny who crave male validation, and the way that they do this is by bringing down other women. Well, pick-me's are people that are harmful for the feminist movement. On, like, an individual personal level, they are sort of irritating to be around to an extent. I do understand where they are coming from. To be fair, like, pick-me's were more of a thing back then. Nowadays, I don't think they're that much. Maybe it's because of the, like, people I'm surrounded by, but in terms of pick-me's nowadays, it's either they're much more subtle with their internalized misogyny, or, like, they try to cosplay as, like, other girls because they don't want to be outcasted by other women, and they don't want to be shamed or be called annoying by men or, like, anybody else. It is good to call out misogynistic behavior even when it does come from other women. I sort of understand where pick-me girls are coming from. They are put into a society where your value is tied to male validation. The way that they try to find a sense of safety and a sense of self-worth is by gaining relationships from these men, or gaining friendships from these men, even if it is at the expense of being friends with misogynistic men, maybe bringing down other women. I understand that it is from a self-preservation point of view. Nowadays, something that I notice is that since the term pick-me became increasingly popular, it is now something that icks out men and find, like, pick-me girls annoying and insufferable. They would not want to date somebody called a pick-me girl. A lot of women still crave male validation. That is still something that is instilled within us, regardless of how feminist you are going to have internalized misogyny because you live under a patriarchy. Now they will cosplay themselves as girls in order to meet the expectations of men, which is like an oxymoron in a way. You're gonna call yourself a girl's girl, you're going to be like supportive of other women, but within you, you're secretly chasing the validation of men, and that is the reason why you're supporting other women. But in terms of friendships with other women, whether that be girls, whether that be pick me girls, this idea that in order for you to stay friends with other girls, you have to be agreeable. If you don't, then you're not a part of the sisterhood. It's very exhausting to live like that. But I do think that taking active steps towards trying to free yourself from male validation, not only for like the women you are surrounded by, your female friends, but also for yourself, because that is something very draining. I promise you, women taking active steps to decenter men in their lives. Like, yes, you can have crushes on boys and have relationships with them, but just be sure that you are still able to balance and value the friendships that you do have in your life. And please use your own discernment to figure out whether or not somebody is like a girl's girl or a pick-me girl. And don't base your opinions on short clips and TikToks that you see on social media. Please. Please. The amount of people that I see that base their dating preferences, political opinions, their like friendships on takes that they see on social media. There's a media literacy crisis. My gosh. But yeah. Please use your own discernment. Try to dig deeper into shit. That's why I have this entire fucking podcast, for me to fucking overthink and dig deeper. But, use your own discernment. Now, I want to talk about high maintenance and low maintenance friendships. I would like to call myself a high maintenance friend. The thing is, when I asked all of my friends, like, am I high maintenance? And they're like, no, not really. I would like call myself a high maintenance friend. I think it's very important to figure out what kind of friend you are. The thing is, obviously, like, people don't operate in dichotomies. Like, you're going to be a mixture of both high maintenance and low maintenance. It's just a matter of, like, what are you seeking in your friendships and your specific connection to each person in your life. Something that I noticed with, like, my closest friends is I would be relatively high maintenance if ever I'm still in the process of building this friendship with them and there's, like, a lot of momentum. We would hang out every day, and I crave that consistency with my friendships. I would like want to set up more hangouts with them in person. Constant contact is something that I crave with my friendships. Obviously, we're going to have like lives outside of like hanging out with each other, but I think for me it's important, like, if I have any free time, I would want to spend it with the people that I value. That's why I would call myself a high maintenance friend. But at the same time, I do have low maintenance friendships wherein I don't talk or don't call with them as often as like the other like high maintenance friends that I have in my life. But when I do hang out with them or do call with them, talk to them, we catch up, it's like no time has passed by. And those are still like friendships that I deeply value and love. With my best friend Ira, I have a few videos with her. When we were both in high school, that was when I would say our friendship was relatively high maintenance, because we would either call every day or every week, like throughout high school, spend a lot of time together. We would constantly like send each other reels. I really crave that like constant contact, whether that be like texting or calling. But as time went on, both of us went to different schools now. We're both in college. She's in Dubai, I'm in the Philippines. Obviously, our schedules are not going to be as aligned. That's when eventually it did become a low maintenance friendship. But it didn't necessarily mean that our friendship had diminished or that I value it less. It just means that it's a different way of maintaining the friendship. I mean, maintenance. From the root word maintenance. That's the thing about like high maintenance and low maintenance friendships, is like you can allow for them to evolve and change over time. It doesn't mean like, oh, you're a high maintenance friend. It means that like all the people in your life are going to like treat you as a high maintenance friend. There's like going to be variations. There's going to be changes. Like just like what happened to me and Ira. An example I have of a high maintenance friendship is my friend Leah. Both Both of us met in college. So she was a relatively more recent friendship. It didn't change the fact that we got close really quickly. We just like clicked like that. From that, we would hang out almost every day when I was like living at my dorm. Even during the break, we would constantly call and text each other and give each other updates. It's just a matter of like defining what exactly your needs are, what makes you feel valued in a friendship, and eventually you'll be able to find friendships that align with that. It will take a lot of trial and error, but I promise you it's going to be worth it. You're going to find the right people for you. There's going to be some people who are a mixture of the two, of both high maintenance and low maintenance. An example of this is my good friend Zed. When I was still living at my dorm, he is somebody that I constantly hung out with. He was somebody that I was constantly around. We would always like hang out at my dorm. We would always watch movies, TV shows together. We would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. Like, we were practically in the lavender marriage at that point. I would consider it like a high maintenance friendship. But once the break came along and we weren't able to like see each other in person, it became a more low maintenance friendship wherein we would message each other every couple of weeks, like updating each other what's been going on. It doesn't necessarily mean that the friendship like diminished or he doesn't care about me anymore as a friend or he doesn't value me. It just meant that with the current situation that we're in, that is what works. Honestly, something I noticed from the friendships that I would consider low maintenance, they just happen to be bad texters. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad friends. Because whenever I need them, whenever I need their support or help, whenever I want to share something, they're always there. And that's something very important to discern. In the moments that matter, are they there for you? Even if they message you every day, if you have some sort of achievement or if you are going through something very draining, are they there for you? I feel like that's a good testament to what a good friendship is. It's not a matter of like, oh, we hang out every day, we have a good time. Like, are they there for you in the moments that matter? It doesn't mean you should villainize people who don't fit those like standards that you do set for your friendships. In terms of high maintenance and low maintenance friendships, there are also going to be like certain friendships that you're going to have that aren't as close or as deep as like your inner circle. It's very important that you do have like that close inner circle, but it's also important to like consider like having acquaintances outside of that and not just like closing yourself off to those people. Yes, there are going to be certain people who you don't necessarily align with or you're not going to have as close of a friendship with them. But in those instances where you have like friendships that are more, I guess like in this instant, like they're more acquaintances, it's still important to like value those and enjoy your time with them. Like, if ever those, like, sort of people who you're not necessarily that close with, they invite you to a social gathering, or, like, even if they're not a part of your close friends, like, try your best to still go and still enjoy their company, because not every friendship that you have has to be a ride or die, you know? There are some that are just there for fun, you know, just for having fun memories, to have fun experiences, to perhaps like be able to network and meet other people that you could possibly connect with. Don't keep your friendship standards so high to the point where you close yourself off to possible opportunities that you could have. Let yourself be free. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is in terms of self-comparison, animosity, and envy. Something that I usually hear from other women and their experiences with their friendships with other women, there was some level of self-comparison with them. Whether that be from their end or from the other woman. The other woman, there would be like a level of self-comparison or jealousy. If you are very insecure with yourself, if you don't have a very strong sense of self yet, once you are put in a situation where objectively your friend is seen as like quote-unquote better than you, or they have better qualities than you, whether that be they have better grades than you, they're richer than you, they're prettier than you, that is obviously going to spark some sort of jealousy within you because you feel as though that is something you don't have. Some people might resort to friendships wherein people are relatively like lower than them so that it can make them seem higher. Finding friendships that elevates them, whether that be in terms of finding people with a certain socioeconomic status, resorting to people who have like certain like prestigious things, but at the same time, them not being like too prestigious or too perfect or like too pretty or too smart. to where it threatens you and your self-worth. You know who you are if you're like that. While I will try to empathize with the person and say like they have a lot of deep-rooted insecurities, this is probably from like their upbringing or like other societal factors that made them feel as though they were not worthy enough. But at the same time, it does not give them the right to project their insecurity onto their other friendships. And in turn, diminish the other person's self-worth in order to make themselves feel better. Jealousy is a normal emotion. Insecurity is something normal. If ever you do feel that way, I highly suggest that you distance yourself from the person that arises those types of emotions for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person, that they're making you feel like shit. Obviously, if they're like making you feel like shit and making you feel insecure, that is something that you should cut off immediately. But from hanging out with this other person, you start feeling insecure or jealous of them, that is when you should start distancing yourself from them. But try to process where that insecurity is coming from. How will you build up your self-esteem from that? How will you acknowledge the good qualities that you do have outside of like comparing yourself to other people? Try to like find that within yourself, and then maybe once you are ready, that's when you can strike a friendship with that person again. Out of care and respect for the person that you are friends with, if you start feeling some sort of animosity or jealousy from them, simply from their existence, simply from them living their life, that's when you distance yourself. Something that I was lucky to have never experienced is, I don't think I was ever jealous of any of my friends, because Maddie knew who she was from a very young age, and so did I. I would say that I had a very strong sense of like, okay, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to get better at. If ever I have any shortcomings, or like if ever I saw another person as better than me in a certain like skill or area, I just saw that as like some sort of quality that is different between the two of us, and it's not necessarily something that I can compare myself to. But in instances wherein like it is something that I would like to say that I'm good at, but like I'm feeling sort of insecure about it, and then like I see that being reflected onto somebody else and they're be able to do it effortlessly, that is when I start to self-reflect and think, where is this comparison coming from? Honestly, most of the time with my friendships, it's just like I more so like appreciate like their qualities as a person, like if they're kind, if they're generous, if they're genuinely a good person, rather than like superficial things. Like, yes, being smart is like a great characteristic to have, but it's not just in terms of, oh, they're smart and they have good grades, and that makes me feel shitty about my own intelligence and my own grades. It's not in terms of that. By appreciating somebody for their intelligence, it allows for you to be able to like connect with them on an intellectual level. It allows you to learn things from them. You should always view your friends as equals. If you view yourself as like better or worse than them, that is like a glaring red flag. Like, obviously, there are going to be qualities wherein like you're going to be more experienced than your friend, or they're going to be more experienced than you. I just saw that as a way for me to learn and grow more from this other person, because they have their own life experiences that allowed them to like grow and progress more in this certain field. Maybe the reason why I didn't necessarily feel jealousy or envy towards like my friends in the past was because I just like learned to admire other people for what they have, and I just thought like, oh, if they are able to do it, then so can I. That's the way that I saw it, and I get that's a very healthy mindset to have, and it does come from like a certain environment and upbringing, and not everybody is able to have that. But I hope that sort of trying to build that mindset within yourself, seeing other people as inspiration instead of competition, is something you should strive for. I will admit, there was like instances before wherein I would see the people around me excelling, and it would be during a time where I would feel stagnant in my growth. It more so came from a place of, I want us to succeed together. It's not necessarily like, oh, I want to drag them down to my level. It's like, if you can do it so easily, why is it so so hard for me. That's something I would say that I did feel before. If you have ever like went through that as well, that's completely normal. For me, it just came from a place of I want the both of us to celebrate this moment. I also didn't like that, yes, they're succeeding, but now they have to like redirect their attention to try and comfort me because I'm not excelling at the same time as them. Like, even if I'm failing at the moment, I will always like cheer for my friends when they're like succeeding. I don't like it when they like redirect their attention to like try and comfort me. I'm like, oh no, let's celebrate your achievement. But it's just like unfortunate that like, oh, instead of this being like a happy moment where the both of us can celebrate and like appreciate each other, it's now like, oh, it's a fucking pity party. I think that is also like a good way of showing your friendship with the other person, that like both of you care about each other and like it's not selfish. The first thing that you guys thought about is not your own pity or your own glory. The first thing that you thought about was your other friend. And that is how your friendship should be. Within your friendships, there have probably been instances wherein they reflected some sort of bad quality or bad action. Some might say a red flag. There would be a certain instance wherein they did something toxic and you're unsure about whether to cut them off, whether you should communicate, or would you just like let it be and like just like brush it off. Here's my take on that. If it is something that is tied to their character as a person and it has become a consistent quality in them, that is when you should cut them off. However, before then, if it is like a one-time occurrence wherein in their situation, like they were in a very bad place, they weren't thinking clearly, like it's a very out of character thing for them to do. In those scenarios, it would be best if you put aside your own judgment to try and understand their situation first. Sort of accept that like it was just a product of their circumstances. In those scenarios, just like brush it off. If it genuinely did offend you and hurt you, that's when you can bring it up later on. Say like, oh, what you did during that time, while I do understand that while you were in a very stressful situation, it did offend me. It did hurt me. Depending on the reaction to you openly communicating that could allow you to evaluate whether or not you want to continue the friendship. If it's something that has become a pattern, but you would say that it's not like ingrained in their character, it's just a matter of like a bad habit that they have, a pet peeve that like arises from you, I think it's best if you do communicate that, because if you don't, it will grow a lot of resentment within you and then it will lead you to cutting off the person, even though it could have been like a lasting friendship between the two of you. If it's something like deeply ingrained within their character and it is something that is harder to change, it's easy to change actions, it's easier to change certain behaviors. It's hard to change character. The only person that can change character is the person themselves. And it doesn't necessarily mean like in all instances like the person is a complete villain, they're a narcissist, they're toxic, they're a walking red flag. It just means that you're not aligned to them. And that's completely fine. You don't have to always villainize the people that you do cut off. And then you can move on with your life and then you'll be able to meet people who do match who you are as a person now. I'm really excited for this next talking point that I do have. It's about the whole protect your peace trend that's going on right now. With a lot of people prioritizing themselves more, prioritizing their self-worth and their comfort more. While that is something that I do value, like knowing when to say no and when to prioritize yourself is definitely something good. But I think to a good portion of people, they may have taken it too far. Wherein people are sacrificing community and being too individualistic and are isolating themselves more, which comes at the expense of the friendships and connections that they do have. And then afterwards, there were more people bringing up the topic of inconveniencing yourself for the sake of community. Going out of your way for other people to help them, even if you aren't able to benefit something from it. I think the idea of like, oh, all of the friendships, all of the things that I should do, it should be something that is going to add value into my life. While I do think that friendships should be something that is adding value to your life instead of taking away. I think the way that people equate the value is by people being able to do stuff for me, people giving me things, people giving me time, attention, validation. But in reality, what adding value actually looks like in a lasting friendship is being able to provide like emotional support, being able to give you memories, being able to give you experiences. That is actually what it's supposed to look like, and not something shallow and superficial. Like, something that I realize is, if you are doing something nice for the people that you love, the people that you value in your life, it will not feel as though you are inconveniencing yourself. If anything, doing something nice for other people should feel fulfilling for you. It should feel nice. You should feel happy to do it. If at the moment you feel dreadful, or you feel like, oh, I have to do this, it's either you don't actually care for that person that much, or there's some sort of character flaw within you where you are too selfish to where like you just like don't want to do things for other people. That will come at an expense. If you don't inconvenience yourself for other people, for a community, it will lead to other people not inconveniencing themselves for you. It will be harder for you to ask for favors from other people when you do need it. It will be harder to ask for help from them when you are in a very vulnerable situation. That will make you feel very isolated and alone. I will admit, there was a time in my life where I was like, I will not trust anyone unless they have given me a reason to do so. I was in like a constant surveillance mode with how I interacted with other people, trying to figure out whether or not would they betray me. And it was like a product of like past trauma that I endured with like previous friendships. It just made me not see the good parts of them or see the value in them as a person. And it did close me off from like possible friendships that were able to blossom. And it became a very toxic, selfish mindset to have. I now know that. I'm not sure if that was something that was like explicitly seen or something that I was like shown with my actions. If any of my friends are watching this, like, let me know if that was something that was observed. From my point of view, it just led to me just isolating myself and feeling very alone, which also led me to very depressive episodes. I now realize like, okay, I should just give freely without any sort of expectation of them giving it back. I should just give for the sake of giving. It's giving. From my experience, it does come back in tenfold. It really does. The thing is, that only happens if you don't expect it. If you give and there's some sort of ulterior motive, that is something that radiates, and that is something very obvious and people can tell. Whenever there were instances wherein I would feel like, oh, I'm not being valued, like I feel as though the effort that I'm putting into certain friendships is unequal to what I'm getting back from them, that's when I would be like, should I like stop? Am I like depleting myself at this point by being this giving towards other people? And then my birthday came around and I wanted to have like some sort of like birthday celebration with my friends. This was my 19th birthday, so like my most recent birthday. I set up this like gathering with my friend group, and then I was then surprised with a cake and a bouquet of flowers. It was like such a happy birthday celebration for me to see that like my friends like all pitched in to buy me a cake and flowers, and they decided to surprise me with it. And they also like talked to the staff of the restaurant that we went to bring out the cake and the flowers and like light it up for me to like blow them out. And it was just like something that really touched me, and it made me realize like I do have very giving friends that do care about me, and it was sort of my fault for like not seeing or acknowledging that, turning to like my own selfish ways of like, oh, why am I not feeling as though like I'm getting anything back from this? I have this belief that you are who you attract. It goes hand in hand with the saying of you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around. If you are a good person, you're going to attract other good people. If you are in a very toxic and low vibrational state, that is when you are going to attract people who are at that same mental state. That's when you are like let into like very toxic situations, toxic relationships, toxic friendships. Like it all just goes back to the simple golden rule of treat other people how you want to be treated. That's all it is, really. Going out of your way to attend plans that you agreed to, even if you don't feel like it. The only times when you should cancel on a hangout, especially if it's something that you guys have been planning for so long, the only times when you should cancel or change the plans is if there's some sort of emergency, something outside of your guys' control, like you or your friends' control. If you're sick, I don't like canceling plans. I don't like being late to plans. Being late depends. I would say I try my best to stay punctual, but obviously there are times wherein like I have been late to plans. I'm not going to say like I'm on time all the time. Just like the simple notice of, hey, I'm like in traffic right now. I'll be there in a bit. Hi, something came up, but I'll be there. Just be a little late. That's like a simple courtesy to have. Canceling on plans if you are too lazy or you don't feel like it is such a big pet peeve of mine. And in those situations, I don't want to hang out with them anymore if they do that. If it becomes a frequent thing, they flake on plans, they're frequently late to plans, that's when I'd be fucking pissed. Putting aside your own feelings, emotions, just attend the plans. It's not just a matter of like, oh, you're an introvert, so you don't like being in social situations, and you made those plans when you were feeling extroverted. That's not a fucking excuse. That's not like a quirky character trait, the fact that you're an introvert. You agreed to plans when you were feeling slightly more outgoing. You still have to push through with your plans. It doesn't have to do with the fact that you're an introvert. Yes, I understand that people need time to recharge and regain their energy, but that is something that you can do at your own time. If you agreed to the plans beforehand, you attend those plans. I'm getting so heated over this. The last thing I kind of want to talk about is outgrowing friendships. Recently, I've experienced that I have outgrown like a certain number of friendships in my life. Partially because I feel like I have grown and progressed a lot ever since I got into college. And I felt as though like certain friendships that I had while I was in high school, I didn't really align with them anymore. And then I slowly started to distance myself from them. You know that feeling whenever you're talking with someone that you used to hold such a deep friendship with, but then you talk to them again, you guys just don't click. You guys just don't have much in common anymore. In terms of the stuff that you guys talk about, it's like, yes, it was stuff that you guys talked about back when you were in high school, but now that you have interacted with other people, you are a part of a new circle, you have a bunch of these new experiences, you talk with them again and then you realize like, oh, I've outgrown this friendship. It's such a heartbreaking thing, honestly. You're questioning yourself and thinking like, am I demeaning our friendship now? Do I think lowly of this person now? And then you just like come to the conclusion that, oh, I've just outgrown this friendship. Honestly, hurts more than any heartbreak, if I'm being so for real. It's not something that you can communicate necessarily with that person because it's something that you just can't like change from them. It's like not something that is necessarily tied to you or your friendship to them. It's more so just like tied to who they are as a person and you're just not aligned with that anymore. If that is happening to you right now, that is completely fine. I've been there. I've been there, girl. Obviously, there's like some sort of like confusion, like what should I do? Do I cut them off? Do I just like distance myself from them? Do I like just ghost them? Do I just like minimize some sort of contact with them, or should I burn this bridge for good? Usually in those situations, I don't like burning bridges unless it's somebody very toxic that I have to like immediately eradicate from my life. But if it's something more gradual, like outgrowing a friendship, that's when I'm more on the side of just let the friendship naturally fizzle and die out. But this person keeps on insisting and trying to interact with you and try to like, I guess, salvage the friendship. But it's you yourself, it's not something that you feel like investing in. That is like a more complicated situation, and honestly I don't know what to do with that. But the best answer that I can give you for that is, I guess, like slowly trying to distance yourself, and then they will like slowly be able to feel that you guys aren't aligned anymore. They'll be able to sense it, I promise you. Okay, so on my story I put what makes a good or bad friendship. So here are some responses that I got. This person said learning to accept someone's flaws. It goes with the whole point of if it is something you can accept and can endure, that is when like you just like let it happen. Or if it is something that is like a part of their character and it is something that genuinely affects you and you feel as though it is toxic towards you, that is when either you communicate or you cut off. This person said, Aristotle, friend is a single soul dwelling in two bodies. This friend of mine is such a nerd for philosophy, so he's a cool guy. When you don't catch up every day, but when you meet up, it's like you just saw each other yesterday. Those low maintenance friendships that when you see them again, it's like no time has gone by. I love those. These two people said one-sidedness. Yes, exactly. If you feel as though it is depleting when you are giving towards someone, that's probably when you should like let go of that friendship and probably look for others. People who are there for each other no matter what and are still friends even after years of no contact. A good friend allows you to unequivocally. A good friend allows you to I can't pronounce that. Unequivocally. A good friend allows you to unequivocally be yourself in all stages of growth. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This person says no hidden animosity, showing up when it matters. And then for bad friendships, making jokes that are passive-aggressive statements/insults from your past mistakes. May pinariringgan ka ba? Are you speaking from personal experience? In that case, cut them off. When they are able to criticize and put you in your place. Yes. Holding your friends accountable when you know they've done something wrong. If you think that your friend is doing something that could possibly be harmful to themselves or harmful to other people, that is when it is your responsibility as a friend to call them out on it. The thing is, there could be a possibility that they could just be completely unaware. And that is your responsibility as a friend who has noticed their behaviors. It is your responsibility to let them know, like, hey, that's kind of fucked up. Maybe you shouldn't do that. On my TikTok, I have 2 videos. The first one saying, hello girlies, what's the best thing about having friendships with women? My friend Leah commented, when conversations are just relatively easier as it flows naturally with more depth and meaning, giving you a more definitive view on certain problems/situations. The debrief sessions that you are able to have with your friends, those are so meaningful to me because the fact that we are able to analyze and dissect that shit. Me and my friends, we go back to the same fucking scenarios and same instances from our past, dissect it, find a new fucking perspective from it. It's so entertaining, but also at the same time, you're able to gain new insight and you're able to also apply it to future situations. I love it. I love the debrief sessions. Girlies who lift you up when you feel down and fight off people who try to tear you down are, that's so real. The friends who will defend you relentlessly, who are able to defend you in rooms where you're not in. I love those kinds of friendships. I really value those in my friendships. In my previous experiences, even in situations wherein I was like being talked shit about by certain friends, there would be like other friends in that circle who wouldn't necessarily join in on the conversation, but at the same time, they were still there. They didn't defend me. They didn't give me the benefit of the doubt, or they didn't at least communicate to me if ever they had some sort of disagreement with something I did. It's just the fact that you are some sort of bystander, and I hate that. It's either you confront me directly or you defend me when I'm not there. You know those people that are like, as my friend, like you have permission to sort of join in on the conversation to be able to get more tea. Personally, I don't fuck with that shit. I would rather like not know about the tea. That's me protecting my peace. Okay? That's me how I protect my peace. I would rather you not join in on the conversation just for the sake of like getting more insight and more tea so that you can spill it to me later. I'd rather not know. I would appreciate it more if you defended me or just left the situation altogether. That's much more valuable to me than any sort of tea that I'm able to get from that. The other TikTok that I had was friendships with other women can hurt sometimes. What are y'all's experiences with female friendship that deeply hurt you? There was this one girl who started treating me coldly the moment I started being happy. She was someone who always said I'm here whenever I was obviously depressed. Okay, I'm assuming that they were somebody that would constantly say that they will be there for you when you're at your lowest. And they started distancing themselves from you once you started being happy. I'm basing this off of information that I see on a limited comment on this post. But usually in those situations, the people who are like always there for you at your lowest but are not there for you when you're happy and your like highest moments, there is a possibility that they got some sort of validation from you being at your lowest, and it made them feel good about themselves that they are helping somebody while you were depressed. But that's also kind of fucked up because you're treating your friend as if they were some sort of charity case. And the moment you're done helping them, oh, they're happy, you're not going to be there for them. It's like sort of fucked up. You know what? Good riddance if they're not there at your happiest. They don't deserve you. This video is long enough. Okay, I'm really tired. It's almost 2 a.m. My neck hurts. My body hurts. I'm on my period. That's probably why I've been so brain fogged recording this. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye-bye. Mwah. I'm praying that the fan that I have on isn't that loud because it's so fucking hot. And so am I. Women? Hey! Oh my gosh, I forgot I was filming a podcast and I ended up doom scrolling on Reels.